Why, Freud was almost right. Love him or loathe him, nobody can seriously deny that Sigmund Freud dominated Western psychological thought for most of the 20th century. Many whose fundamental terms are household words, and the psychoanalytic industry he spawned is worth a fortune. And yet, even from the beginning, Freud had his critics. Science philosopher Karl Popper not only described Freud's theories as wrong, but unfalsifiable. In the eyes of Popper and many others, including myself, this is much, much worse than merely being wrong. That's because being wrong is a normal part of the scientific process of discovery. We learn from our mistakes and we grow. That's not a problem. To be unfalsifiable is to have no mechanism, no process for uncovering mistakes. According to Popper, that's not science, it's pseudoscience, or even nonsense. This seems strange at first. After all, if there's no way to prove me wrong, well, that should mean I'm right, shouldn't it? Well, actually, no. What if I told you that aliens are using magic to intervene in our lives according to their own mysterious but ultimately benevolent plan? There's no way to prove me wrong, because every piece of evidence you present can be countered with, "Ah, yes, but the ways of the aliens are strange." It's nonsense, of course, I just made it up. But you can't prove that. My belief in benevolent magical aliens is unfalsifiable, and according to Popper, that makes it nonsense at worst, or pseudoscience at best. So it is with Freud. His theories might be right, although personally I doubt it, but how can we know? Whatever objection I might raise to falsify the theories of the Electra complex, the Oedipus complex, or penis envy, can easily be dismissed by the Freudian by appealing to unconscious motivation, projection, or some ill-defined defense mechanism that prevents me from understanding the truth. Ultimately, the Freudian can even resort simply to saying, "The ways of the unconscious are strange." There is no way to falsify Freud's theories, and therefore there's no way to prove them correct either. But let's not be too hard on Freud. It's true that with the perspective of hindsight, some of his ideas seem outlandish, but he was a man of his time. Freud was a pioneer, and like all pioneers, he made some mistakes. But he was still a genius, however strange some of his theories may seem today. In terms of evolutionary theory, he was hampered by the now outdated Lamarckian theory that may well have influenced some of his ideas about wish fulfillment. But without him, it's doubtful that we'd be anywhere near as informed as we are today, especially in terms of evolutionary psychology. And he got a lot of things right. Freud's ideas about the unconscious mind, wrapped up as they were in notions of fantastical symbolism and sexual fantasy, seem from a modern perspective to be beyond the pale, but the basic idea is sound enough. We are far from conscious of our evolved motivations, largely because natural selection has favoured those ancestors who weren't. The idea that evolution benefits self-knowledge, once a mainstream assumption, seems ridiculous today. And so Freud's theory of the unconscious becomes far more plausible. But it's not all about sex and death. Oh no, our unconscious motivations, our mental modules cover much more than that. Personally, I have a lot of sympathy with Freud, even though I think his ideas were mostly nonsense. He was a man of his time, and he was on the right lines. Our evolved mental modules are almost exclusively beyond conscious awareness, and without Freud we'd probably still be clueless as to their true purpose. I mentioned Freud here to make a very important point. Most of what we do has evolutionary roots that we aren't usually conscious of. The reason that pride is so important, that nationalism recurs so regularly, and that fathers protect not only children but also second cousins, is unconscious and even nonsensical until we think about evolution in general and genes in particular. The reason that people with long earlobes tend on average to marry people who also have long earlobes, yeah, that really is true. Seems obscure until we consider kin selection in the environment of evolutionary adaptation. Extravagant displays, even among the poor, are difficult to make sense of, as is our ability to kill ourselves with saturated fats and sugars. The motivations for all these things make evolutionary sense, and they are, largely, unconscious. For all his faults, Freud was almost right. I'm Stuart Sorensen, and this is Mind the Care Training. If you found this video useful or helpful in any way, please feel free to share it around and click the like button. Oh yes, and while you're at it, if you click on the little character icon that's on your screen right now, you can subscribe to the channel and you won't miss any other videos. Thank you for watching.